Welcome back to another Coffee and a Chat Survival Saturday. And this isn't what I had planned to do today, so this is going to go up a little later. And I know that my Survival Saturdays have been coming out really late in the day the last couple of times. And for some reason on the weekends, our internet is like a wackadoodle. Well, it's not even just the weekends because it's during the week, because I know like that two Survival Saturdays ago, I actually was downloading that like I usually do on Thursday or Friday, and it took until, what was it, like Saturday night, I think like 10 o'clock our time, something like that, before it actually finished uploading. So I know that they've been, with these housing developments going in, they are moving lines and everything, and so we keep getting notifications that they're doing maintenance on our lines, and it always says it should only take an hour, and it can take days before it corrects itself. So so I don't know how this will go, because I'm actually recording this today because some things have happened this week, and it definitely has changed what I wanted to do. And it just kind of in the night was like, oh, I need to change what I want to talk about today. So today for Survival Saturday, I want to talk about rabies, right? Because everybody should know about rabies. And I'm not kidding. We really need to know. So where Marvin and I live, we have a few acres, well, a handful of acres, and the majority of it is wooded. And so we have wildlife that lives in our woods, and all around us, we've got on both sides of us and across from us, we've got 3 different housing developments going in. And on the one side of us, they've already started the process, and they're clearing away soil and stuff. And so these, all 3 of the areas were farmers' fields, but wildlife lived in the woods surrounding these fields. And of course they ate in the fields. Not that that made the farmers happy, but you know, they're just trying to survive. And you put a buffet in front of them, what do you expect? So it is disturbing the wildlife more. So I know that we have gotten an increase, I think, in our wildlife population. And it doesn't mean we always see all these critters. In fact, every so often we'll stick a trail cam out for a few days, and so we can see like how many, get an idea of how many deer, how many raccoons. Oh my word, we get so many raccoons, possums, birds, fox, skunks. There's all kinds of things, rabbits, stray cats. We have a lot of things that live back in our woods, but unless we use a trail cam, we don't always really know, because wild animals usually do not want to interact with people. So we had a possum that came out this week, and it was not acting normal, and there were some concerns. And anyway, we're pretty sure it has rabies, and so, it has to be dealt with. We had, I think it was last summer, it might have been the summer before, I had gone out into the woods, into an area, well, it was just the edge of the woods, and we had a bunch of pavers that we had stacked up, and I needed a few of those, or cinder blocks. I don't remember what it was I was going for, but I was going back to my resource pile and going to grab a few things, and I heard a rustle in the leaves just maybe 3 feet, 4 max away from me, of leaves, because it was about this time of year. And I saw a little movement and then realized it was a raccoon right there, and it was not acting right. And so it was very obviously late stage rabies, and boy, I had to back out of there and get out of there. And the poor thing was already blind, I'm sure, or I would have been in a world of hurt. But it was just laying there. It didn't leave when it heard me coming. I'm talking, I'm singing, I'm making as much racket as I can when I go back towards the woods, because I want the wildlife to know I'm coming, and they don't need to surprise me, and they can go scatter off. Yeah, so when they don't scatter off, it's not a good sign. So before I go any further on this, for those people who are like, but I don't live in the woods. I don't live where there's wildlife. Are you sure you don't live where there's wildlife? Because with these housing developments going in and stuff, one of the problems that comes up is after people move in and the developers have gone on their merry way, is they start having problems with deer in their yards, and that annoys them, or raccoons walking through, or fox. You know, I see on social media here, on our local social media, all the time, people that have come here from big cities and they're retiring here, and they've moved into this quaint little housing development, and then they're like, you know, putting up pictures of like fox and stuff. Does anybody know what this is? It's kind of cute. But they have wild animals that used to hang out where that housing development is. That's where they used to come to hunt and to eat and everything. And just because the houses have come in, you know, they try to find someplace else, but after a while, you know, they're going to come back to where they were looking for food, and they're getting less afraid of people, more accustomed to us. And, you know, and they will, you know, if you leave stuff out like dog food and stuff, they are going to get into it. So we end up feeding, you know, they get into our garbage or whatever, and we're feeding the wildlife, whether we intend to or not. And so wildlife is, because it's got to have someplace to go, it is getting into neighborhoods. And this is becoming a bigger and bigger problem. Now, another thing that I see as a really huge problem is, because I respect wildlife, that wild part, don't forget that. A wild animal is wild. And I notice, like, I don't watch TikTok, but they'll put TikTok videos on YouTube on the shorts and stuff. So I'll see some that'll come up, and then just videos people make on YouTube, you know, oh, lovely animal asked for help. There was a bobcat. I think that's the one I saw yesterday, that, you know, baby bobcat asks human for help to save mommy. And, you know, and it shows this baby bobcat walking around all cute and meowing in their backyard, but, you know, running off. And so they were like, oh, you know, it wants us to follow it. And they go and they find the mama bobcat that is furious and stuck in a trap. And then, you know, this woman takes a piece of cardboard or something and puts between her and the raccoon, or not the raccoon, I'm sorry, the bobcat, to try to release the trap, to let it go. And then, you know, and then removes the, you know, cardboard or board or whatever it is she's using, and the bobcat's looking right at her. And it doesn't run off right away, and then it does, and it shows it leaving with 3 kittens. And, oh, you know, and it's this feel good, you know, what a brave, wonderful saving thing. And you're finding more and more people that think it's okay to be up close to wild animals. There are people that are around where bison are in national parks and stuff that are getting attacked. Bears, people are getting attacked. I watched a guy, they were videoing it, and I don't know how it turned out, okay? But the guy is out, you know, gets out of his car and is trying to hand feed, you know, tossing stuff to this bear. And it's just a little black bear, no problem, right? Well, that little black bear probably weighs 500 pounds easy. And, you know, and the guy's throwing food to it, and it's catching it. It looks all cute and everything. And it's probably 5 feet from the guy, 4 feet. I mean, it's close. And then all of a sudden that bear turns, and the camera falls, and that's all you see. So I don't know how that turned out, but I've lived where there's bear before, and you don't go get up close to them. You don't mess with them. I don't care how cute they look. That is a wild animal that sees you as the main dish on their menu for dinner. And if they don't want to eat you right now, they'll just, you know, wound you and leave you in a shallow grave and come back for you later. You don't mess with this stuff, people. So for people that are thinking, oh, it's really cute, you know, and just even, you know, the hand feeding squirrels can be a problem. It does not always turn out good. And these are wild animals. And so we need to respect them for that. But not only that, they carry disease quite often. And so that's why I want to talk about rabies today. Now, this is not a, you know, exhaustive thing on rabies. I'm just going to share with you my experience, my observations, the things I've learned over the years. But again, do your own research because there's a lot of things out there about rabies. Now, if I see an animal out in the daylight, a wild animal, I don't go, oh my word, it's got rabies, because a lot of people do. They think, oh, it shouldn't be out during the day. That's not always true. Some animals will come out during the day to feed because, if there's no moon that night or whatever. Deer do that. They feed during the day, but when there's a full moon, then they sleep during the day and they'll feed at night. So it doesn't mean necessarily something's wrong with it. But when that animal is not afraid of you, there's a problem. If that animal, okay, so like with the possum, I didn't see the possum. I came in after the fact when they were trying to trap it and take care of it. So, because you have to do something about it. You cannot just let it go. So, and besides, that animal is suffering, and it is mercy to put it out of its misery. But Marvin had said that he saw this possum come walking up slowly and then just sat there and looked at him. Okay, that's not normal behavior. That possum, knowing there's people there, should have wanted to hightail it out of there. Then that possum started to come at him. That is really not a good sign. Now, if it's early on in the rabies, they move fast and they will attack and bite and scratch, and good luck getting it away from you, and you're already at risk and going to have to go get some lovely shots in your belly for a while. But this one was moving very slow. Its back legs didn't seem to be working quite right, which happens with rabies, because the brain is dying, as I understand it. And so, he was like, okay, this has got to be rabid, but at least it's moving slow. It can't move very fast. And so then it crawled into one of our little drainage pipes, and oh, great, that became another issue. I mean, it wasn't making it easy, but this possum was not acting right. It seemed disoriented. The raccoon that day, it was very disoriented. It's like I didn't even think, even though it was so close, I could have reached out and touched it. It was like it might not even know I'm here. It was very late stage. It was already in the process of dying. And if I had come in contact with it, I would have been bit, but it was probably already blind at that point. And then when Marvin, when I was able to get him to come help so we could take care of the raccoon, we didn't feel bad about it because we knew that thing was suffering, and we put it out of its misery, and then had to go and remove it. So you need to find out what the laws are where you live, of what you can or can't do, what the proper disposal is, all of that. So I'm not going into that because every place has their own thing of what you're supposed to do. But somebody, because we've got extra people here, right? And somebody said, oh, if this happened to somebody, I guess they would just call the police if they didn't know what to do. Well, you know what? The police aren't going to get there in time, especially if you're living on the outskirts of town. And most housing developments, town is moving out, and that's what's happening here. And so you just need to be aware when those animals aren't acting right. And especially if they're approaching you, that is not a good thing. It is not going to be that the possum could have been injured, as they're, in some of the machinery as they're in the, working on this housing development. It could have been hit by a car. I mean, there's a lot of things that could have been. But my personal feeling is the safe thing is to assume it is rabies. Yeah. Because then you're not going to want to come in contact with its saliva, with its blood. You're going to take extra precautions because it is deadly. Rabies is nothing to mess with. And, and we've got dogs, and yes, our dogs are vaccinated and everything, but it does not guarantee that your dog's not going to get rabies if they tangle with something rabid. I think the vaccine just gives you a hope, a better chance that it won't, but there's no guarantee. And we've got a dog or two that is very protective, and they're very good watchdogs. And so if anything's off, they let us know. And that's another thing that, I told Marvin, I've got to be better at paying attention, because one of our dogs yesterday, before all this happened, was barking back towards the woods, and I couldn't see anything. And so I'm like, what is it? The grass moving, because there's some tall grass back there. Maybe, it's moving from the wind because it was breezy yesterday. Is this what's going on? And I'm just trying to calm the dog down. Well, the next thing I know, we've got a potentially rabid possum in the front of the house. And now I don't know if that's what my dog was seeing or not, but he was seeing something. So this morning we go to let him out, and he's on guard, and he points back to the same area where he was yesterday, and alerting me. So I'm paying attention this time, and I stayed until I saw. Now, it ended up being a stray cat that lives around here. And so, but that doesn't mean they don't have rabies either, because nobody's giving them medicine or taking care of them. They're just living wild out here. And because people dump them off or whatever. But, I'm learning that it is very important to, I've got a dog that she's a mouser. She hunts our house for mice, and she kept going into the guest room this week, kept wanting to go in there. And I'm like, what is with you? And well, she's already, she also had surgery this week and stuff, because she got spayed. And so I was like, she's just being whiny because of that. Well, today Marvin needed to go into the guest room for something, and so he goes in, and that guest room stunk like crazy because there was a dead mouse in a trap in there, and that's what she was trying to tell me. So me as a human, I need to pay better attention to my dogs. I'm learning that this week, because each dog kind of has their specialty. And they're very good at what they do, and I need to pay attention. Okay, you're the mouser, so there's probably a dead mouse in there, or one that's not caught yet, or whatever, because she'll corner them. And so we got it going here. So if if you're at the Tunnell household, you better be serving a purpose, or you're out of here. Including the dogs. We had one dog that just was not doing anything that he was supposed to do. He wasn't listening to us. He wasn't minding. He just kind of seemed to be his own. And so Marvin and I, he needs to go. And it's like he heard us and understood. And man, that dog, he shaped right up and started doing whatever we asked. He was like the best dog. So yeah. If you're living in the Tunnell house, you better have a purpose, and you better be fulfilling it. So we don't do vacations, and we don't do naps, and there's no rest here. Yes, there is. But everybody has to work together. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of put that heads up out to people today, that just because you live in a suburb or even in a city, a lot of cities have problems with rats, and we get rats out here. We try to be very careful about what we put in our little box that holds the garbage that doesn't get hauled but a couple of times a year, because we usually don't produce that much. Now we're producing more because we got other people here, but we try to be very careful about what we put in there, so we're not attracting wildlife, but stuff gets in there. And the last time that we had to empty it, or 2 times ago, I think it was, that we emptied it out, there was a rat living in there, and we found that before. They set up house, and it's not good. So I don't care where you live. Odds are there's some kind of wildlife that you're dealing with. And if you're dealing with wildlife, the potential of rabies, it's there. And so don't fall into this, oh, it's a cute wild animal and it wants me to pet it. No, don't touch it. And don't be thinking that, it's trying to tell you something that you need to go help it or whatever. So many of those videos are staged. They're not even real. There's a lot of times where there are people that actually put an animal in harm's way in order to make the video, which is horrible. So I love God's creation. I love the wildlife, but I also respect that they are wild and that they have their place back in the woods. And I have my place up front here at the house. And we need to kind of keep those two things as separate as we can. And when something's not acting right, you got to do something about it. So you find out what you're supposed to do where you're at and how to deal with it. Yeah, but be aware. So there, that's my Survival Saturday, talking about rabies. All right, I love you guys, and I got to get busy, and I got to get this uploaded, and hopefully it will go up today and not, take 2 or 3 days. It might be a Survival Saturday coming up on Tuesday. I don't know, but that's part of survival, right? We do the best we can. All right, I love you guys. You have an awesome day, and I will be talking to you again real soon.